Hi, I hope you're doing well today. It's Melly Moore from the ADHD show, and I hope you're having an amazing Friday. And today I'm going to be with Danny Townley. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So if you have any question, don't hesitate to always post any question on the comment section. We'll be so happy to respond you because Danny is here today. Before we start, I just wanted to remind you that you can go to the ADHDmelly.show.com if you want to see which person is going to be a guest in the other weeks, because I always upload this every week, so there's always some change, so yeah. And I just want to show you my sample. It's not the official sample, but I want to show you a little bit of the t-shirt that I am working on now. It's not the perfect version right now, like you see, it's too pale and etc., but I'm working on it. Like I said, I put a poll on this to see which coat you prefer, and it was this one. So I'm working on a t-shirt, and I hope it's going to launch for October. And if you want to pre-order it, it's totally free to pre-order it. You're only going to be charged when they are going to ship and when you're going to see the final result. I just want to show you that we are working on this. It's going to be ready so soon. So hello Monster6 Jam from Twitch for being here. I'm so excited to have you now. So I'm going to please applause Danny Townley that's coming right now. Woohoo!
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm not used to being on a live with so many different platforms. It's usually just LinkedIn. So there's Twitch. Which other platforms is there here?
There's also YouTube that I try to make it on, but I'm mostly have subscriber on Twitch for now. But of course, one day I'd rather to have it only on Twitch, because it's a platform where anyone from the world can join. That's why I have Twitch too. And sometimes I play video game on that Twitch too. I know it's a little bit diverse, but I like this platform because you can make so much new friends, and people are not like on LinkedIn. They professional all the time, so they can ask you question more freely. I have the impression that sometimes on LinkedIn people are shy to ask some question, and on Twitch they can ask you any question they want, and also they can subscribe to your channel. So when they subscribe, you get a little bit of money from it, because people subscribe every month, and they can give you some bits, 2 bits actually, or 1 cent. Then you can just give to the person. You don't need to be subscribed. You just give money that you want, which is not necessarily on LinkedIn yet, which will be really fun if they could do this for creator. They can send a little bit of money like that because they just enjoy what they see. So that's why I'm also on Twitch, which is very fun. And you don't need to be you don't need to subscribe to Twitch. I mean, to have an account on Twitch to listen those things. So that's very cool for that. That's the reason why I'm mainly on this right now. But I like to try different platforms, so I'm in a trying mode. That's why I'm also on LinkedIn, which is fun too. So are you on other platform? Can you share which platform that people can follow you?
I'm just on LinkedIn. I like to keep things simple. I've got Facebook for family and LinkedIn. That is it. And I've got a temporary Instagram for I'm going through like a body and mindset transformation program at the minute, so I'm kind of documenting my journey on there, but that's temporary. As soon as it's finished, it's gone. But I keep things simple. LinkedIn pretty much all the time.
That's cool. Can you talk to the people a little bit more about you? Because if people know you, they know that you did your coming out of ADHD and autism on the platform, and you said that you had a diagnosis later in life. So talk to me a little bit more about that. But my main question would be, why did you seek that diagnosis? Which was the clicking point in your life that you say, I'm not like everybody else?
Bloody hell, that clicking point was my whole life. So, I mean, this is a really long story, but I will keep it short and sweet. I'd always lived a life feeling different. I literally felt like I'd been dropped on the planet, and I was like, shit, where the hell am I? That's how I felt all my life. I had challenges growing up, mixing in with people, little things like not being able to give eye contact, stuff like this, and I always assumed that it was down to a chemical imbalance, or I'd inherited some depression gene from family. And I accepted that. And it wasn't till I was 30 years old, I just started my business on LinkedIn, and I really resonated with a guy who's now my business mentor, autistic, and I liked his way of speaking. And the more I got speaking to him, the more I thought, I'm very similar to this guy. So he sent me all the blogs that he'd written about autism, and I read them and I was like, holy shit, this is me. So I did about 4 weeks digging deep, checking everything, making sure that I'm autistic. So I self-diagnosed last October, but there was still a little part of me that was very, uncertain. It wasn't 100%. So 4th of May, Star Wars Day this year, I was professionally diagnosed with autism and ADHD, which I didn't expect. I was quite surprised with the latter. Oh, yeah. I got both of them.
So did the doctor tell you what it means to be autistic?
Yeah, I mean, I was so overwhelmed that I didn't take everything in, but my fiance was with me on the call at the same time, and she broke down into tears because it made her realize that all these times in the past 4 years where she thought I was purposely being an awkward little shit, there was understanding to why I was acting the way I was. And there'd been a few occasions where there'd been sort of mega uproars, we'd have big arguments, and we found out to why that was. And it's because being autistic, I think linear. And what that means is I can only process one thing at a time. So if you imagine me at a party with loud music, lots of people, it becomes so overwhelming that I have to get out there, and it gets too much. I literally can't hack it. So yeah, it's been a crazy year.
I feel that ADHD is a little bit like autistic for some point. That's maybe why you got the ADHD part too. Because I feel the same for the overwhelming when in a big party is like music everywhere. But I think it's also because of the concentration part. You don't know where the conversation is, and you're like, oh my God, what the heck I'm doing here? And I do really feel you for that. And what I will ask you is your relationship with your girlfriend helped after you had your diagnosis? Was she more patient? Did she start to read a little bit more about it? What did she did when she learned that you had your diagnosis?
Yeah, she's been amazing. She has researched and studied, but the most important thing that's come out of it is I now realize why I sometimes act the way I do. So we could be eating food, and I might say, "Don't talk on the phone whilst I'm eating." Whereas once upon a time, she would have thought I was being really rude, but now she understands, and she's like, "Okay, no problem." Or, for example, we went to a theme park the other month, which was really busy, and before my diagnosis, I would have tried to tolerate the full day. But 4 times throughout the day, I said, look, I feel exhausted. If I carry on, it's going to put me in a bad headspace. Can we just sit down and relax for 20 minutes, half an hour? And she's like, yeah, cool, let's do that now. So that's the biggest thing now, is because I'm aware of my triggers, she supports me with them.
That's amazing. That's a good girlfriend.
Yeah.
And I will congratulate her if she's watching this one day, that to support you like she does. It's a good girlfriend. They're not always like that, partners sometimes they will have left a long time ago because they will be too scared. What the heck is that? And thing like that. So when you were a child, bring you back, because we're going to talk, you were not diagnosed, but when you were a child, did you experience, I don't know, when you were in school, difference like making friends or social abilities? You felt like that? Did you talk about did your parent notice that there was something not wrong but different?
Um, this is quite a good question. So during school, I always found it really difficult to speak to people. It made me feel anxious, and I never understood to why. So over the course of time, I just tried to fit in and mask that. But what happened is my friends would be able to speak to, say, outsiders really easily, and I just stick within my friends. So I always found socializing really hard, but I was always the class clown. This is the ADHD side of me. I used to do stupid things and I never used to think of the consequences. But going back to the other question about did my parents realize? Well, good question, because I'm 99% sure that my mum's autistic and she is as well, because I have a step brother. We've both got different dads. Yeah, we're both autistic, me and my stepbrother. And my mum's got all these sort of characteristics about her that clearly says, look, mum, you're autistic as well. So she was hard work with me growing up because she never understood to why she acted the way she did. So I don't think she realised, to be fair, she did realise I was different, because when I told her about my diagnosis, she said, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. You've always been different. It's like, thank you. Why didn't you tell me this years ago?
Did your brother has been diagnosed young, or he wait for a long time too? Was it more noticeable? Why was diagnosed before you?
Uh, he's younger than me. He's 19. So there's a 12-year age gap between us both. But he was diagnosed at 3 years old in nursery. Um, he he just had crazy tantrums as a kid. But he's also got I can't think of the name of it. It's all to do with balance. So he's got really bad balance. So if he tries to play football with his friends, he's very clumsy. So that this is the sort of stuff they picked up when he was a kid. But I think in the grand scheme of times, um, autism, neurodiversity, ADHD is still relatively new. So I was born in '89, and this all came about really in the '80s. So my parents, that generation, don't know what it is. They don't understand
True.
it.
I was born in '88, and it was quite difficult to find for girls, particularly because most of the study is for guys. So that's why I was like wondering if there were diagnoses more earlier for boys. But like you said, people mostly think that you were shy, so it was not a problem, because you were also a clown. So they thought this boy is just shy. He's not autistic, because in that time people thought that autistic, non-verbal,
Yeah,
diapers,
yeah,
and mentally retarded. I will say that because in that time they say that word, okay, not
yeah.
today in 2021, but in that time they will say people that are different, they will call them retard, which is bad, but in this time it was the case. That I'm just saying like that. So
Mhm.
yeah, so that's how it was at that time. So, and they call it a different name too. They didn't call it autistic, they call it Asperger. I don't know, there's another name on that syndrome at that time, but now everybody is now call it autistic. But in that time they were different version of the same syndrome, and they call it
Yeah.
Asperger, they call it other things. So people didn't really know is it the same thing or not. So it was very difficult to diagnose. So when we were talking about your study, were you able to still concentrate and not did you no you didn't know? How was your grade when you were in high school?
So I was always told by my teachers that I'm really smart. I've got a gift. However, now I understand the ADHD side of me. I could not sit down. I could not sit down and listen. So I failed miserably. And it wasn't through me being stupid or silly or uneducated. Even when I was doing my exams, I failed my English. Instead of writing about the Queen, I'd drawn a picture of her riding a motorbike. My mind was elsewhere. And yeah, it doesn't mean I'm stupid. I was just so easily distracted.
Yeah, they think that you're just lazy at school, you don't want to listen and you want to be a rebellious person. That's what they think at that time. Yeah, it was the same for me, but it was more when I was younger, when I was in kindergarten and when I was in primary school too. I was jumping on the wall, the door. I was climbing on the top of the door, almost on the roof. So yeah, it was something quite. That may be why I got diagnosed, because people could see it. When somebody is climbing the door, it's not is it will. You cannot act like that. So they bring me to the doctor right away. But your ADHD is more like in your head and not necessarily physically showing it, it can be
That's
very
me.
hard to diagnose. For me, it was physically seeing, but for other people, is in the hyperactivity is in the head. When
Hmm.
like you can see, I move all the time, so it's easy for me to be noticed as ADHD. That's maybe why I'm so good of being a host, because I can talk, I can take the place for the other person if they're a little bit more shy or the etc. so
That's good.
so what were your action when you got diagnosed? I know that you needed a little break time. Did it help you?
No.
No.
It, it didn't help me because I always need to be busy. So, during a working day of, having your own business, you've got to do social media, you've got to do admin, you've got to do the work, you've got to do the Zoom calls, you've got to do the marketing. And I like to keep busy. So during that time where I was like, holy shit, this is so overwhelming, I need to have time out, it was worse. So I was just sat there like, I'm autistic, I've got ADHD, I'm autistic, I've got ADHD. And then I just drove myself crazy.
Yeah, because you are only thinking about that, and that's the worst. You need to do something else to forget. What you should have done is just go out on, like, doing kayaking like you did yesterday.
We've only just got that though, so
So, what I wanted to ask too is, do you think that communication is easier for you on front of a computer? I mean, when you don't talk to the other person. I feel like when I was younger and teenager, I feel I was so much confident when I was just typing at people on forum and stuff like that. It was more easy to find friends online because I had the impression that I was not really talking. I was able to say delete if I was saying something very crazy at that moment. So I could just delete it and do it again. Did you feel like it's easier to make friends or even communicate beyond a computer than in real life?
yeah, 100%. And this is why I do well with business because I'm good on the keyboard. I'm still myself, but I'm a complete different person face to face. If I don't like you, if it's blatantly obvious, and I find small talk really challenging. And the only way that I can really talk to someone in depth is if I can really relate to what the subject is. If that's not the case, I'm just like, I don't listen. Which behind a keyboard, people don't see that.
No, and you can respond when you want to respond. You're not forced to be now, 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 now. And on the phone it's the same. When they call you and it's a client, you have no, like in the business hour, you have no choice to take it, or the client will be, "Why did you not respond to me?" I know that you're open, but when it's on email, and if they say something that overwhelms, like, "I don't like my banner. I want this change again." Sometimes clients are a little bit picky and they want so much change, and they are a little bit like that. But if they call you, it's hard to keep your temper. It's harder to keep your temper and be professional than on front of an email where you can go breathe and have to respond like politely. What do you think about that?
I've set myself a rule in my business. I don't take phone calls at all, never. It's a rule I have. If somebody reaches out and say, Danny, I'm interested in working with you, can you give me a call? I just say, hey, thanks for reaching out. I don't do phone calls. Let's have a chat on here. I just don't do phone calls. The only time I speak to a person like this on a Zoom call is if they've paid me up front. because I have to be really careful with my energy, because Zoom calls, they really tire me out.
Yeah, I understand. That's why we're going to do a little shorter session today, because I know that you can feel a little bit tired today, and I do understand absolutely that. So do not worry. It's going to last like 35 minutes. So if
Okay.
you want to leave or you feel overwhelmed, just please tell me, and
No,
there's
I'm
no
good.
problem. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to ask you too, what will you say to somebody that feel that they may be autistic or ADHD? I say may because self-diagnose is good, but it's not the reality necessarily. Like you said, you find out you were also ADHD. You never thought you could be ADHD. What will do you have a tip or something that you will say to somebody that feel that they're different and they want to make sure and know exactly what they are?
Yeah, so since I've been open about my journey with self-diagnosis and formal diagnosis, I've had so many people reach out to me. I've helped easily 30 plus people from that point of the life where they realize they're different and then they resonate with my content and then they want to know the steps that I'd taken. So I always say, look, I'm not a professional, but I can give you advice based on my journey. So first of all, for me, I filled out this quiz, and it clearly came back that I was highly likely Aspie. And then from them, I did research, and then I said, if it becomes blatantly obvious, or you're pretty sure that you tick the boxes, then you've got two routes. You can either go private, or you can go down the NHS route, which would be healthcare for you. And I said, that's the only information that I can give. But then they might ask questions about the personality traits, if I'm similar. But yeah, I've had so many people reach out. It's crazy.
And do you think it helped your business to came out?
Yeah, 100%. Because one little example, when clients ask for sort of timelines with completed work, I always say, look, it would take the normal person maybe a couple of days, but with me, 2 to 3 weeks. And that's because some days I get up and it's not that I'm depressed, my brain just doesn't work. It's just been overstimulated. I've been working a million miles per hour, and I wake up one day and I'm just like, and I can't do anything, sometimes for days. And they understand that, and I tell them right from the word go. So when I speak about it on a regular basis, one, I'm supporting people who are either already autistic, they have ADHD, or they're at the pivotal point of realizing that they're different. And lastly, I'm also planting a seed to my next potential clients that if you work with me, I'm a little bit different. So it's a win-win for me. I know a lot of people have reached out and are really scared to tell people about the diagnosis, but I'm not.
That's a bit why I decided to create the ADHD Melly Show, because it's not only about ADHD, but it's about coming out, to accept yourself like you are. There's a lot of body positivity, to be happy when you're a certain weight or certain look, but there's not this, it's never, I never saw that, yeah, I'm ADHD, positivity and stuff like that is really rare, and it's not only about the physical, what you look, but also what's in your brain, how you feel mentally too, because it's not because you have ADHD or autistic or anything that you cannot be happy, even if it's sometimes difficult for you in life, and you can be happy, you can live like a normal person, you can have a job, you can have a family, you can have money, you can have anything you want in life if you give your the effort. Yes, it's going to be sometimes a little bit harder, like you said. You have some time that you cannot work. I feel the same sometimes because my brain is sometimes so overloaded, or even when I do exams and stuff like that, I need to 1 week rest, but I cannot necessarily do it because I still have classes after that. So
And
that's
you've got
sometimes very
ADHD.
hard. Yeah, that's very ADHD to be so productive a week and the other week want to do like nothing in your life. And sometimes you wonder, am I depressed right now? Why I don't want to do anything? I have so many work to do. Why can I not do that? And sometimes people medicated themselves to avoid having those feeling after. But even if you're medicating is going to help for your dopamine. Like I'm going to talk about my about in my podcast next Monday. I'm going to talk about dopamine and why it's so important and why ADHD brain lacks of dopamine, because ADHD is not only a dopamine issue, but because of the dopamine issue, is make everything worse. It was only a little bit of imbalancement in the brain, because it's also on the front cortex in somewhere else that I don't remember, but it's also the balancement of dopamine. That's what drugs is going to do you. If you don't know, those drug is like a little bit like cocaine. It's not cocaine, but it's derivative. It's doing the same work than that. Okay. Mm-hmm. And no, you're not going to necessarily be a zombie if you don't use those medication. But sometimes medication is not necessarily what you need. It depends of each person. So can you please, if you want to, you're not necessarily need to talk to me about that, because I know it's very personal, but have you think about taking medication or therapy or stuff like that?
I did initially. I looked into it because a friend of mine's got ADHD, similar to you, so he's got it on the external as well. Growing up, he was just like this all the time, and he's on it now, and he swears by it. But I've done my own research, and it's hit and miss. There's no consistency with good results, and it's amphetamine. I don't want to be on that because it can suppress your diet. It's got lots of side effects. So I'm okay at the minute. I think for me, I guess I just need to understand more coping mechanisms and be more self-aware. That's it. I mean, I work for myself. It's not like I work for a big corporate company like I used to, and I've got people telling me what to do all the time. I can set my own rules. If I'm really burnt out, I can just have a lie down in the bed. And if I'm hyper-focused, I can just work till 10 o'clock at night. It's so flexible.
Yeah, that's why I decided me to not take medication. But like I said, it's an option if you want to. Like I said, I did take medication when I was a child, because like I said, I was moving all the time, and it's a routine. You absolutely need to go to school. You absolutely need to do that. You cannot go to bed in class, it was not possible. So my parents put me on that. And when I was like 14, I decided for myself that I wanted off. And I found it helped me. I didn't see a lot of difference. Yes, I see difference for tiredness and stuff like that. But for me, I realized that it was not necessarily the best way of doing it. And I find it planning and make sure that my day is filled of the task I absolutely need to do is way better. And again, for the task you need to do every day, you don't overwhelm yourself. You just put the 2 or the 3 things that needs to be done absolutely. Like you can put, I need to do laundry, because if I don't do laundry, I'm like having a problem, You only put the 3 things that's very important to do, or because you have a deadline, because you promise a client that day and they pay you for bringing the project that day. Yeah. So instead of that, I don't feel like it's a necessity for me, but I like to just talk about it because I want to have different opinion on that, because like I said, I'm preparing a series on medication method and not medication method. As I'm not a doctor, I like to have some little bit of advice too at the same time. So did you want to share something else? Because like I said you before the episode, you have 2 questions to ask me. So do you have something that you want to share to the public that you feel like it's important for them to know a little bit more about you, or etc.?
Nothing comes to mind, to be honest. I guess my question for you would be, what was your intention and reasoning behind starting this ADHD Melly show?
It was mostly to show that you can be successful even if you have ADHD or any neurodivergent or even mental health, because I'm talking about depression, anxiety. Because if you don't know, anxiety and depression, it's easy for people with ADHD or autism to have it as a side effect of a non-diagnosis. So now you give me a question for you because of that question. I was about to ask you if you felt like you were more anxious or more depressed before you had your diagnosis versus now?
Oh, I'm much better now. Before my diagnosis, I guess it was a combination of confused, depression because I was confused, and anxiety. But whereas now, I mean, don't get me wrong, not all days are perfect, but it's much better than what it used to be. If I'm in a busy place or I'm a little bit peopled out or burnt out, I know now just to go and have a lie down for half an hour. Whereas before, it wasn't an excuse for me to say, "Oh, I'm a little bit tired. I'm going to lie down for half an hour." But I understand to why I need to do that now. So I've got all these coping mechanisms, and I really understand myself. So afterwards is much better, 100%. Because a
Yeah,
lot of
because
people
before
said to
you,
me, "Don't bother with a diagnosis." Or when I did get the diagnosis, they said it doesn't change who you are, and it's like, no shit. But I understand who I am.
yeah, because before you probably say you want to be like everybody else, and then if you didn't, you weren't. And sometimes you may ask yourself, if is everybody like that? Is
No.
everybody right? Maybe they all think like that too, but you feel that not at the same time because you don't have a diagnosis. You think that maybe you're normal, but not normal at the same time. So you're not very sure. Should I take a diagnosis or not? You know, and sometimes you wait so many years because you just don't want to. You don't want to have that reality in face of you. You don't want a doctor. You pray that the doctor will say you're wrong, but it's not the case. You know.
True.
So that's a little bit why I create the ADHD Melly show, but because I want to show other people not only my story but other story. Because you're successful, your business is working, you have a lot of client. I see mostly every week you show a new banner. I can say that you're successful, even despite everything that you've been through in the last month. I have the impression that you shine. That now you're like, I'm here. I'm alive. I have ADHD. I have autism. I feel way better in my life, and I saw the difference from before and after in your communication on LinkedIn, because I felt like you were a little bit more shy, even if because you didn't want to share too much that part of yourself because you were maybe scared of what other people will think about you. That's a little bit why ADHD Melly Show is so important, to show it's okay. You have ADHD, you have autism, you have depression. It's okay. Everybody can. It's okay. You're not alone. There's a lot of people around you that are here to listen to you and to understand. So that's why an ADHD Melly Show is also for people that are qualified normal too, that want to hear that want to learn a little bit more about those things, and they want to inform themselves. And you know, an employer, if I say that ADHD, sometimes they can be scared and terrified of that person that has ADHD or autism or anything else. And when I talk about it, they realize that girl is intelligent, that girl is capable of doing the work, that girl is employable, that girl is capable of living her best life, that girl is possible to have money anyway. They're not going to be attached to the government money. You know, I know how to work. I know how to make it work, even if it's hard sometimes. Sometimes I just want to go sleep, I will go sleep, but after I'm going to work. And those are the things that employer needs to understand, that yes, I'm going to stay 8 hours at the job, but please just pay me for 6, because I may want to leave for an hour break instead. Can you accommodate me? You just pay me 6 hours instead, and stuff like that. It's possible for this employer to do that if they want to, and it's okay, you know?
100%.
So what's your second question?
Oh, I didn't think of that one.
Take your
I'm a
time.
linear thinker. I can only do one thing at a time. So
It's okay, don't worry.
I, was you diagnosed as a child then? Yeah, you was on the medication, wasn't you, as a child?
Yes,
Okay,
I was diagnosed at 6.
that question's irrelevant then. Does everybody ask 2 questions?
It's okay if you cannot find
Yeah,
another
I
one.
can't think of one.
It's okay. So to end this conversation, I'm going to ask you to talk to me about your business, what you do as a business, because I like when my guest is introduced them in their business, what they do, because if somebody watch this and they need a banner or anything you're doing as work, it's important for me that I promote them at the same time. So talk to me a little bit more about your business.
So this is a really long story actually, but I'll keep it quick.
Take the
What?
time you need.
Yeah, I've only been doing design as a job since May last year. So prior to that, in the January 2000, I'm getting mixed up now with years. Honestly, this coronavirus has messed with my head. So January before the coronavirus, I was a car salesman, believe it or not. I had been for 4 years. I was working for Volkswagen and I bought my own car. I thought I need to get out of this job. I don't know what I want to do, but the only thing that's holding me back is the fact that I don't have a car. So I bought my own car. I had it for 3 days, and I was driving to work one morning, listening to some Avicii. It was sunny, it was hot, and I'm driving 70 mile per hour. And it took me a long time to come out with the truth. And I was doing what's called a Wim Hof breathing exercise. I don't know if you've heard of this before, but
No.
it's a form of breathing exercise that when you finish, it makes you feel alert. And my friend had sent it me by YouTube, so I was doing it on the way to work, driving. So you do like 30 deep breaths, like this, and then on the last one, and then you hold your breath, a minute and a half, and then like this. And what had happened is I held my breath too long and I passed out.
Oops.
I completely passed out, but I was driving 70 mile per hour. So I was on the busiest road on the way to work. It was like boom, 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 boom. And what happened is, as I've come to the bend, I've gone straight over the road and I've missed this truck by a couple of seconds coming towards me. I've missed a tree by 1 meter, and then I've gone through the hedges, all four wheels off the ground, and I've walked up in a farmer's field. Like, holy shit, I feel good from this breathing exercise, but what the hell's happened? So, cut a long story short, I had my license medically revoked. So what that meant is I couldn't go back to work because I had to be able to drive cars to sell them. And it was a commute anyway. So I gave my notice in and coronavirus happened, came about. So every job I applied for got retracted. And my previous employer, they wouldn't furlough me even though I was entitled to it. They could have still put me back on the books, paid me furlough, which was backed by the government, but they didn't do any of that. So I was like, holy shit, I've never been out of work since I've left school. What do I do now? So I've always enjoyed design, and I've been in many jobs before with business development and sales, and I've always enjoyed doing PowerPoints, visuals, graphics, and I love doing it in my spare time, photography, editing. So I was like, how can I keep myself busy? More than making money, I wanted to be busy. That was it, because of ADHD, but I didn't know them. And I seen somebody doing LinkedIn banners, and I thought, I'm going to try this out. And here we are, a year and a bit later. I've built a full business from it. Some people say to me, why don't you do websites, branding? And I just say, I'm autistic, I'm smart. Keep things simple. If just do one thing and do it the best, even if it's just banners. Because what happens from that is I'm branded as the Pablo Picasso of LinkedIn banners. And because of that and my content, people still reach out and say, do you do branding? Yes, I can help with that, no problem. But I advertise myself as doing one thing and do it great. And since I started the business in May 2020, I've worked with over 300 clients. I've got a VA now. I've got a business mentor, and my confidence has grown. And throughout that journey, I got my professional diagnosis as well. So if it wasn't for that crash, I would never have been diagnosed. 100%.
because you would have waited, because probably. So yeah. So I'm happy that it worked great. So if a client asks you for a website, you can bring them to me. I'm kidding.
Yeah. Your WordPress websites, is that right?
Yeah, exactly. I
And
do
how long have
that
you
too.
been? This is my question now. It's not for the audience; it's for me. How long have you been building the websites?
About 10 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you know WordPress very well.
Yeah, I do know WordPress very well. I also do web hosting too, and SEO for the website and stuff like that too. I do that too. Yeah. So with the ADHD Melly show, I also have a job, because if I was only doing the ADHD show, it wouldn't work. I need to eat like everybody else. But one day, I hope, okay, in a year or two, I'm just going to do the ADHD Billy show. I will really like that because I like to inform people, to share story, interviewing. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a journalist. Okay, that was my dream job before being veterinarian. With animals, doctor for animals. So I
Oh,
decided I wanted to do that when I was a kid, and after I wanted to be a journalist, and I say, oh, I'm not that bad actually, so why not doing the ADHD Melly show at the same time? So yeah, one day I want to make that full time, but now I'm going to finish my university because it's my last session. I'm so happy, and after I'm going to be able to focus more on the TV show and on my job, and maybe sell my company. I like that, not like that.
you never know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I never know.
be consistent with it. The ADHD will help, and yeah, reap the
Yeah.
rewards further down the line.
Yeah, like I say, ADHD is not a curse; it's a benediction if you use it right.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse, actually. Yeah, that's why I'm going to the gym too, because it canalizes my energy. At the same time, it's good because I spend more energy, and at the same time, I'm more focused in my mind. I don't know why it's happening like that, but maybe it's a dopamine that's giving it for free. You don't need any medication. Dopamine is coming for free, and it works so great like that too.
You've also had a few people, I think, comment. I've just seen them. No,
Yeah. So
I
if
don't
you have
recognize these people because I don't use Twitch.
Do you have any question, people? If you have question, we are going to stay another minute. So
Yeah,
if Kyle, you have some
hey
question,
Cal.
big chillin' too. So yeah, like you can see, I have more people on Twitch right now, which is great too. But don't worry, people will be able to re-watch this on LinkedIn and on YouTube too, and even on Twitter you can re-watch it too. So if you have any question, it's your time or never.
My last question for you actually is why? Oh, go on then, Kyle. Yes, Kyle.
Go ahead, Kyle. And
Moment
thank you
of
so
truth.
much for being here because it's very cool to. I'm going to show it to the people.
How do you stay motivated to achieve your goals? So I mean, on this call, I make out that everything's sunshine and rainbows, but it's really tough. And going to your question, how do you stay motivated? I don't. I struggle with motivation. It's more discipline. So even on the days, for example, where I really can't be asked going into the stable to train, or I can't be asked going for the run, or I really can't be asked for the boring task, I just do it, which is discipline. I think the two things are completely different, but I'm probably one of the least motivated people you will ever meet because I procrastinate like mad. So I hope that answers the question.
And if you want to have my view, I will say me too. I'm procrastinating so badly. That's why I do a planner and I try to stick with it. And I look at it. If you don't do it, at the same time, which helps to achieve goals, is I put myself a list of the thing I'm going to do if I do the things, like some rewards. Rewarding really helped me focus on my goals. So if I said I finish that website, that client, because when you have ADHD, the problem is it's hard to finish a project because it's
Oh
cool,
yeah.
cool. because it's so cool to do the designing, but after when you have to do the touch up, the client asks you for more different stuff at the end, you're like unmotivated. You just want to stop that project. You want to pass to another one, but that doesn't work like that. If you do, you won't get your money, so you need to get focused. You want to make that client happy. So what I'm going to say to myself, if I finish that client, you're going to get paid. So why not going to go take a drink at a bar, or getting a restaurant, or getting that piece of clothing that you're looking at for months? Why not getting a reward on that money you just made? And it doesn't mean and I find it easier for me to make that kind of monetary reward, because if I don't do monetary reward and I don't allow me to buy something that I want, I'm going to spend my money on crap. Okay, I'm sorry to saying like that, but I'm very impulsive. So if I decide to keep that money too long, I'm going to blow it up and spend it on everything. So if I put a list of the things that I want, you did that work, you can have this one. You did that work, you can have this one. So that's what easier for me. I know that you want to say something about it. Just go ahead.
I'm in fact, let me just reply back to Carl quick. He just said, very interesting, Danny. I am the same way, except I don't do what I need to do. I need better discipline. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it all starts with goals, doesn't it? That's what it's down to. Just to give you an example here. So I've always been into fitness throughout my life, but for the last 4 years, I've not trained. I've become very lazy, not active. And I've had to pay for professional support. So I've got my own online coach now, and he makes me accountable for the results that I'm getting at the minute. But just to give you a bit of a rundown. So this morning I wanted to train before I started to work. And I spoke to Melly earlier, and she was like, did you have an alcoholic beverage? And I was like, no, I've just got back from training now. So this is the thing with ADHD as well. I'm fantastic at writing the list down, but some days I won't even touch it.
It's true. I have a trainer too, because I need to lose weight. And sometimes my trainer, even if she's not with me and she's doing other things, she's going to go in front of me at the machine and she say, you didn't do all your repeats. Go ahead, I'm watching you. And she's not, and she knows, because I told her, you need to put me accountable, or I'm going to do things, but it's not going to be as perfect that I should be. So if you see that I'm lazy, or I'm always on my phone instead of pushing those dumbbells, go tell me. And she's like, that.
I tell you what. I was going to say, I tell you what helps me though. I don't use this all the time, but what helps me for productivity when working from home. Have you seen one of these before?
Yeah, I have one too, but mine is like a button with minute. Yeah.
Yeah, so you set it on 25 minutes work, and then set it for 5 minutes. Carl's come back again. I suppose, but it doesn't mean that. Yeah, same, Carl. I'm fantastic at creating. I've got all the information here, and it's like, and then I look at it a day after, and I'm like, shit, I still need to do this list. But I'm making out here that I'm a really lazy person, but I'm not. If I don't get stuff done during the day, I make up for it somewhere else, because you know yourself, Melly, that having ADHD, when you're in the zone, you work much faster than the average person. 100%. I can sometimes get done. I'm being serious here. If I had a neurotypical sat next to me and we was both the same skilled person with the same tasks, I could get done in half a day easily what he'd be able to do in a day if I'm hyper focused. It's crazy.
And if you're not, it can take you a week, when another person will take a day.
Take a more hour, yeah. Pomodoro is that? I don't know how you pronounce it. But my mentor, he recommended it because he's autistic and he's got ADHD as well. So we're a right team.
Yeah. I do use it, but sometimes I forget why I shouldn't. Like today, I said we're going to do 30 minutes, 35 minutes, and now it's already 50 minutes. When we're in the conversation, the time passed so fast, and when you work, it's like the same thing. You're so hyper focused that you just work. Now it's 10 o'clock, or you forget to eat, you forget to do things that you should do, because other things that what you need to do now. And it's very hard also to just, when you have a task and you like that task, it's difficult for us to do another task, because you have two tasks to do to that day, but you like that first task so badly that you don't want to go to the second task. And sometimes the
All the
second
time. All the
task
time. If I've got a really boring banner and a really good one, I do like most of the really boring one, but then I'm so intrigued in the really good one, and then the really boring one client will reach out and say, "Hey, Danny, just wondering how long it's going to be." And I'm like, "Oh shit, I need to go back to the really boring one." But it just happens all the time. But for example, on when was it? It was on Tuesday. I only worked 4 hours. On
okay.
Wednesday, I worked 17 hours. Talk about inconsistency. I worked from 7 in the morning till 12 at night on Wednesday.
Oh my god.
And then I woke up really early on Thursday morning and created a picture of me and Emma with Yoda and Groot. Just that wasn't even on the agenda. That's just
For me, the hardest thing is like to just wake up at the morning. When I wake up, it's fine, but just to get out of the bed, sometimes it's so hard. If I have a boring day, like boring project, But if it's fun project, I will wake up at 4 in the morning because I will be so excited to do it.
I've been repeating affirmations in the morning with mixed results. I feel better and more motivated in the morning, but it's not always translating into better results. What what is it you're trying to achieve, Carl? Because it's all well and good talking about motivation or affirmations and getting mixed results, but in an ideal world where you are now, where would you like to be? What does that look like? If that makes sense. Because I don't know who you are, so it's really hard for me to paint a picture.
Yeah, if you want to say more, Kyle, just go ahead. You're in a free place here, so everybody that listening to us has positive vibe. That only positive vibe can be on my show. I'm quite happy because I haven't get trolled yet. I didn't have any people laughing at my English or laughing at the way that I present myself yet. So I pray that never going to happen yet. So
You've been
yeah.
brilliant. I've been able to understand everything clearly that you've said.
Yeah, I've tried my best. That's why I do the ADHD show in English too. It helps me a lot with the language. So I was wondering, Kyle, do you want to say something else or anything like that? So, so I have another question about planning while Kyle is responding now. Probably is responding, and maybe there's a delay with the chat because it's on Twitch. So the question is, how do you plan your day? I suppose that you don't plan anything because that's how I do it naturally, but I like force myself to do it because I see better result in my work. Have you tried to plan and I don't know, to get yourself some list and etc.? Is it working to have your list, but you have to give yourself the effort to follow it, even, or at least force you a little bit to follow it? Do you do that? Does it help you a little bit or not at all?
I think no. I was once upon a time in a routine of every morning, military, or the night before, sorry, I would write down exactly what I need to do the next day, but I wouldn't do it. And the thing is, as well, because I've got ADHD, I've got unrealistic expectations. So I'd probably write down a week's worth of work in one day. I wouldn't achieve it. I'd feel deflated, and then I wouldn't do it. So the best thing that works for me is I've got a current workflow of, say, all the banners that I'm doing, where I'm up to, and I just stick to that. And anything else in between, like sending invoices, yeah, that's all structured. That's certain days, but I've trying to steer away from the writing long list because it's hard. Monday I might be all guns blazing, and Tuesday I might only work for 1 hour because it just happens that way. So as long as I'm progressing all the time, that's perfectly fine. But
And what do
I
you
keep everything in here anyway. I'm smart. It's everything in my head.
And what is your tip to not overload you? I mean, sometimes you're so happy, there's a lot of people asking you for banners. And how do you make it work? I mean, to not overload you, to have reasonable delay, because sometimes I have that problem that I'm going to accept too many clients for the same time, and sometimes it caused me problem in the past because I was saying yes to everybody while I shouldn't. So what is your tip for that?
Well, I used to do that, and that shows a few signs. It shows that you're either you're too cheap, so you're very busy. That's what I used to be like all the time, and you're working with every client who reaches out. So they're the problems that you've got on the challenges, and this is the stuff that I've been learning with my business mentor. So now I charge premium fees. So not everybody converts, but the people that do, they get all my time. I don't have to do as many Zoom calls per week, and I've been very clear what type of people I want to work with. So if somebody reaches out and they're being a little bit rude, I just say I don't want to work with you.
No, thank you.
And I've got rules. If somebody says, "Oh," when I talk through, I mean, I've got a qualifying process, but once I explain at the end when they're happy to go ahead on the waiting time, occasionally some people would say, "Oh, I wanted it in a few days," and I would say, "Okay, that's not a problem. It takes me 2 to 3 weeks because of the way I am." So I've got all these rules and processes in place that by the time someone's paid, they fully understand my rules, my duration, how long it's going to take, and they've also paid me a good price as well, which means that I'm not doing 50 banners a month like I used to. I'm doing 4 a week, which is 16 over the month. So the banners get a lot more sort of attention.
Yeah, that's great. I need to ask you because I want to do another banner, but more for fall. So I think I have time to ask you for fall. So Kyle was showing this. I'm working from home as a draftsman, AutoCAD designer. I need to get jobs done on a schedule. Also, I'm taking class and trying to get into engineering program at my company.
It's really tough for me to give advice because I'm no expert. But one thing that's really helped me massively is to prioritize my sort of health before work. Because what used to happen, and some days it still does, like yesterday, for example, I solely focus on work so much that it really has a bad impact on my state of mind. So I flipped it around now, and it's right. Okay, I'm going to do my 10,000 steps in the morning, and 1:30 p.m. every day, or 4 days a week, I'm going to do my workout. And because I'm doing that, the in between bits of working, I'm feeling more recharged, more focused, and the whole process becomes a lot easier. But I'm not saying every day is perfect; it's not. But that really helps me.
So it does help me too to prioritize. So what I do too is just I have the delay because sometimes I need to put a delay because when I do websites, sometimes people need their website to do business. You know, it's important for them to sell online, so they want their product to be launched as fast as possible. You know, which I do understand, and that's why sometimes I do some steps with the client. I say I'm going to put the product on the website. The design's not going to be perfect, but at least the product's going to be there. You're just going to have a small home page explaining the product, and the product's going to be there. And which is fun for me with website is the client can help me do some job too sometimes. You want it faster, I'm going to show it how to put the product, you put the product, and they're going to be there. So I can easily like talk to them to find a solution to make it work in both sides, But I do understand for you it's like engineering and draft. You have some difficult client, I will say, because you have a powerful boss behind you telling you what to do. Okay, I'm an entrepreneur; it's not the same, and I do understand that. But I can mostly respond for the point of being a student, because I'm also a student, part-time student. I'm going to have 2 classes in university this session, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some time zone, which I'm doing nothing, then studying. I'm going to put myself 3 hours, but I'm not expecting to study 3 hours. I'm expecting to at least have stuff done. So I'm giving myself some goals that are achievable with my state of mind and how I feel that day. So even if I only take 20 minutes of that time zone, it's okay. I'm not going to punish myself because I wasn't able to do it. But that's what I'm going to just tell you for the studying part, because like I said, I've never been employed in a regular job in my entire life, more than 3 months in the summer job, stuff like that. So it's difficult for me to respond to that part, the other part. But for the studying part, I will say to just book yourself some time where you promise yourself that you will try to study. And even if you need to put candles, you need to bring yourself a nice coffee, or you need to go to Starbucks to get yourself a coffee, it doesn't matter. Just do it the best as you can.
Right, I'm gonna probably have to go soon, Melly, because my battery's
Okay, give me 2 seconds. I definitely need to prioritize my health. I have been eating like crap and drinking too much, and also I haven't been meditating at all. Welcome in the club. For a long time, it was like that for me too, and I decided to cut. For the eating crap and the drinking too much, what I'm going to say, so you're going to just say yourself 2 minutes. I'm just going to say 2 days I'm not drinking. In 2 days I'm going to eat healthier. I'm not saying to stop it right away. It's not going to work for your mental health and your state of mind. You just take a little bit of step at a time and just not rush into the process. It takes time. If you haven't meditated, it's okay. You just try to meditate at least once a week, or you're doing your best.
I think the thing behind this, what Carl's mentioned, and it's one of the biggest things I've learned with my sort of fitness coach, is mindset, fitness, and it's your sort of root cause to doing what you're doing is you must have a big reason to why you want to do it. So if you find that you're eating unhealthy and you're eating like crap, or you're drinking too much, then what that's saying is that you've not told or set yourself something to work towards. Like, for example, my business mentor, he's 53 and he's shredded, absolutely shredded. He's got 6-pack. But 5 years ago, he was massively overweight. And his reason why, and it sounds crazy, I want to be able to walk my children on the playground, and I don't want people looking at me thinking, oh, he's really unhealthy, he's not going to live for very long. And I think once we all set these big, powerful reasons to why we do what we do, then you find it, you'll work on your fitness 100%. And as it goes for meditating, I really struggle with it because of ADHD. So Google or YouTube Wim Hof breathing exercise, but don't do it whilst driving.
No, because you're going to have a problem. So thank you very much, Danny, for being here, and I hope to talk to you soon. So have a nice day, everybody. Bye. Seeing you next Friday.
See you later, guys.